Baki Hanma is violence. It's the pinnacle of muscles in anime, and it's about the purity of combat. So if you were to make a game based on this IP, why not dive into that Punch-Out inspiration? From the developer PurpleTree, who has actually made one of these games in Thunder Ray, Baki Hanma follows that same formula to deliver some 2D violence. And I'll keep things simple here. If you have played Thunder Ray, Baki Hanma Blood Arena is very similar. Same basic mechanics, with a few more enemies for you to learn, but strips the voice acting from story mode. If you haven't played Thunder Ray, then welcome to my complete review of Baki Hanma Blood Arena.
Ready. Gameplay.
While the game may look like Punch-Out, and it is definitely inspired by it, this game does have its own rules and its own feel. Enough to be familiar, but not a total rip-off of the Nintendo classic. All 4 of the face buttons are for punching, 2 punch the face, and the 2 others punch the body. And then you have your D-pad for all of your defensive maneuvers. You can dodge to both sides, you can duck attacks, and if you hold up, it blocks overhead strikes. There is one more defensive option which the tutorial does not teach you, and that's neutral block. If you don't hold any button at all, some attacks will be blocked, and it's actually the only way to avoid some of these attacks. So it felt like an important detail that the tutorial just left out. The tutorial also failed to mention the difference between head and body shots. As far as I know, they are exactly the same, as they deal the exact same damage and build the same amount of meter, but I did find that specific punches may interrupt some attack animations if you know which ones to use. It doesn't stop the opponents from attacking, but it can slow them down, giving you more time to react. Still, I would like for the game itself to explain this to me, because I'm still not sure if I got it right. On top of that, holding any of your triggers will charge up an attack, and if you land these twice in a row, you will stun your opponent, giving you some time to land some free hits. As you land normal punches, you build up to 3 bars of meter, which unleashes a different special attack on each one of them, assuming the opponent doesn't just block it. You see, seemingly random, the opponent just starts blocking your attacks out of nowhere. There's nothing indicating that they're protecting their head now, so you should go for body shots, or the other way around. And I get that this isn't Punch-Out, since there is no stamina, you can pretty much just mash the attack buttons all the time, as long as the opponent isn't throwing an attack themselves, that is. So the game needed some kind of limitation, and it feels like blocking is its way to limit how much damage you can deal between attacks. But I also feel that games like these are trying to reward precision of execution. And when the opponent can randomly get hit or block an attack, you introduce an element of RNG that doesn't mesh well with the rest of the game's concept. When you delete the opponent's health bar, they'll go down for a 10 count, at which point you can mash the face buttons to heal as much as possible before they get up. And if you knock them down 3 times, you get a KO and you clear the encounter. Alternatively, if your health runs out, you'll have to mash the buttons to get up before the 10 count, and if you get knocked down 3 times, that's game over. Right before you go down, however, when you are low on health, the screen will zoom in and sound effects will become muffled, like your character is struggling. But it's not just your character, you will be struggling as the player as well, because now some of the attacks will straight up come from off screen. That said, if against all odds you manage to survive for long enough, you heal back a little bit of health and return your vision to normal. It's the kind of game that can be extremely punishing while you're learning each opponent's patterns. Each enemy feels like a big boss fight. The direction of their attacks will usually give you a hint as to where you need to dodge, but many are very deceitful and you won't learn them until you've gotten hit by them a couple of times. And getting hit a couple of times is often enough to just go down. So you need to lose in order to just know what you need to do. After that, you still need to work on reacting to those attacks and learning all the patterns as well. It's a game that you could easily finish in 30 minutes if you did all the bosses first try, but that's just not possible. I actually spent close to an hour learning some of these individual bosses, and there are 12 of them in total. But once you finally learn how to beat them and execute everything correctly, it is incredibly rewarding. That's the kind of game this is. A game where you get beat up over and over, slowly learning how the boss works until you have figured out the entire fight. Once you reach that point and enter that flow state of dodging every attack perfectly, that's when this game shines the most. Or when it throws a curveball and kicks you in the nuts because you got overconfident. Now, there are definitely times where the game can be frustrating. Some attack hitboxes linger for longer than they should, so even though you've already dodged the attack, if you return to center too soon, you're still getting hit, like you walked into that punch yourself. But also, the game is more than just memorizing simple attack patterns. Some of these bosses have some cool and original ideas with unique effects. For instance, if you get hit by the poop punch, it will apply a poison effect on you. If you attack Dopo during his counter stance, he will blind you from one eye. If you get bit by Pickle, you'll have to mash a quick time event or he will drain your entire health bar. This is a very simple concept that's overall very well executed, and I find it beautiful to look at. The art is incredible, it's very faithful to the show, and it's very cleverly animated. It doesn't do anything crazy, but using high quality effects and a ton of impact frames, together with good sound design, it makes every hit feel very very impactful, which is ultimately what you want out of a Baki game, even if it comes with this filter over the entire game that I'm honestly not a big fan of. Now, this is a pretty short game in scope, but it does offer a couple of game modes, so let's check those out.
Ready. Game mode.
The game offers 2 game modes. Underground Tournament is this game's story mode, and Survival Arena is a survival mode. But before you get your hopes up, they're kind of the same content. Story mode is set in the Maximum Tournament arc, but it doesn't follow the fights religiously. You often fight against opponents that were in that tournament, but they weren't really Baki's opponents, so it has a bit of a what-if feeling to it. Sometimes Baki takes a break from tournaments to reminisce about previous encounters. Other times, they don't even try to justify the fights. Baki just says, "Here I go," and they start fighting. All of this is told through text boxes and anime stills, making it by no means a good way to learn the story of Baki Hanma if you're not familiar with it already. 12 encounters in total, and the game shows 2 difficulty options for each opponent, with the exception of the final boss fight, which has a fixed difficulty. However, the difficulty doesn't change the movesets at all. Instead, their punches just hit harder, so you're not allowed to make as many mistakes, but to call that a different difficulty is maybe a stretch. And then we have the other mode, Survival, which is the exact same 12 opponents, and you must fight them back to back. But now there's no retries, and you have a limited number of KOs, which vary depending on the difficulty you pick. And that's the only thing that varies. So once again, calling this 3 difficulties is being way too generous. Your KOs and meter will carry through each round, and you do heal a little bit at the end of each fight, with a bonus that if you actually make it through the entire first round of an encounter untouched, you get to keep all of that white health, healing you back to full. But depending on the opponent you're up against, you might be required to block some of their attacks, and blocking does chip damage, denying you that bonus. So sometimes there's just actually no way of getting it. But ultimately, it doesn't feel like we have 2 game modes here. Since the bosses are exactly the same, it's just the same content framed in 2 different ways. The game does have some interesting trophies, so it does get a little more interesting if you're an achievement hunter, but outside of that, the game does feel pretty short, which for $30, you really gotta ask yourself if it's worth the money. Like I said, if you do it all first try, you probably beat it in 30 minutes, but that is, in my opinion, impossible if you've never played this game before. I died a bunch of times trying to learn all of these bosses, and I beat story mode in less than 5 hours, and then I gave survival a couple of tries, but beating it is basically going to require you to memorize all 12 boss fights. And if that's the type of challenge you're into, then you will get more value out of this game for sure. But if you're the type of player that's in it to conquer every fight once and then put the game down, depending on your skill level, I don't think you're looking at a lot more than 5 or 6 hours of content. And that brings us to the end of this review, where we scored this game. If you're new here, I use letters for my scores, from F, which is a bad game, all the way to A, which is really good. And this is my score for Baki Hanma Blood Arena.
Verdict.
I think this game is pretty cool, and it's overall well polished, even if the concept is relatively simple. That said, if you're gonna make a simple game like this, I think you have a few options. You either make it cheaper, like Thunder Ray, which was half the price of this one, or you offer more content. The story mode in this feels kinda rushed and very slapped together, and the game modes available barely disguise the fact that Blood Arena is pretty much just 12 boss fights. Now, make no mistake, I had a great time clearing these bosses. It's genuinely fun, but would I feel like it was worth my money if I didn't get a code from the developer? Probably not. Still, as far as Punch-Out-like games or Baki Hanma games go, there aren't many other choices, so if you are a fan of either one of these, I think this is a pretty safe game to pick up and just have fun over the weekend. And that's my review of Baki Hanma Blood Arena. Let me know what you think of this genre. Do you think other anime should try this out, or should this be a one and done for anime games? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And for more anime games, check out this video right here. Thanks for watching. Bye.